All right, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. I am Ted Summers, as always, from Tulsa, Oklahoma. With me from Canton, Ohio, is Eric Stanbro. Eric, what's up?
Did you almost say sunny, Canton, Ohio?
Well, I looked outside my window. It's sunny here. It's hot. It's summer. We went from spring to summer in one day. It's like the heat index is already like 90-something here.
Yeah, it's been warm recently. It'll probably still snow next week, but it's doing pretty good. But yeah, I'm just down here at the fun house. I went through the entire place yesterday, I think. Turned off all the furnaces. There's like 30 throughout the 100-some thousand square foot in here. So I got all those shut down, and now it starts to cook in here because there's no AC. But yeah. So yeah, what I don't really have a lot going on working dog wise. I am got the Colorado Canine Conference coming up in a couple months. I'll be teaching out there. That's a good one, man. If you guys listen to the Colorado Canine Conference, you got to look up on their website, coloradocanineconference.com. It is a working one where you bring your dog.
I was going to say it's a hybrid conference, right?
Yep, I loved it. This episode is brought to you by KINETIC Dog Food, KINETICDogFood.com. Ted and I love it, man. It's such a really, really good high-performance dog food, but also their 24K formula. We use it for training. It is amazing. A nice big piece. No chicken in that particular formula. So if you get a new dog in from Europe, you don't know if he's allergic or not, don't worry about it. Check it out, KINETICDogFood.com.
Our friends out in North Carolina at Highland Canine Training run great green and Finnish dog programs, as well as an online and in-person police supervisor course. Hit them up at highlandcaninetraining.com. That's letter K number 9, highlandcanine.com. 30% off the discount code WDR30.
This episode also brought to you by Horizon Structures, horizonstructures.com. They will custom build you a kennel, drop it off, hook it up to your water and electric, and have that thing running with dogs in it the same day. They can custom build one. They got some already pre-built. Check them out on their website, horizonstructures.com. Anything you need from mild to wild, they're there.
One of the longtime supporters of the show has been Ray Allen Canine in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They've been around forever. RayAllen.com, where you can buy literally everything but the handler of the dog and the patrol vehicle. Everything else you can get from them. Hit them up, WDR10RAY for 10% off your order. That's WDR, the numbers 10RAY.
One of our longest sponsors is DOGTRA, DOGTRA Official, DOGTRA.com. We love DOGTRA. Their products are so good. Their e-collars, their ball poppers. Ted uses all kinds of different things at his place, from pet dog e-collars to working dog e-collars. He loves the hands-free 1900S. They've come out with some new models lately and an amazing new bark collar called the Smart Bark Collar. Check them out. DOGTRA.com, WDR10 for 10% off a single item over $200. DOGTRA.com.
Somebody that's been with us since the beginning is Arnaud out in Vegas at ALM Canine Equipment. As if you follow me on social media, you see me wearing my ALM suits all the time. It's all I wear. I've got several of them. Eric's got several of them. We love Arnaud. We love ALM, custom made in Vegas. WDR or WD Radio for 10% off. That's WD Radio for 10% off. ALM Canine Equipment. That's letter K number 9. ALMCanineEquipment.com.
It's in a new place this year, new location, a huge, big facility. Kind of last year we had a couple facilities, so the guys had to move and drive in between. But now it's going to be a one-stop shop, kind of a stations. You know, you can come to me for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then go to somebody else for a few hours, or just stay with one person all day if you want, whatever you want to do. But it's good. It was really nice last year. This is year 2, so I'm hoping that Jeff really is able to keep building it up. And
who else is instructing?
It was me, Howard, Cameron.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, a lot of the names that people know. We had a really good time last year. Everybody came out with their dogs. There was people drove from like New Mexico, like 27 hours to come there, and the weather's going to be beautiful. It's there won't be a cloud for a week because that's the way Colorado is. But yeah, so what's going on with you? You have a class coming up or something?
I just finished one, and everybody's now certified nationally and state and whatever else. Everybody's out working. They're already fine and dope too. Like they're crushing it already. And then I'm just getting ready for this next class. we ordered enough dogs last time to kind of get us through it. I didn't realize, and this is not a political statement, but thankfully I haven't had to order any dogs under the new tariffs. So
I saw today China's already backing up off their tariffs a little bit. Just give it time, folks. Give it time.
Yeah. So we talked to David. I talked to David Magruder the other day. He's in it's like Kilo 2 K9, I think, in Kentucky. And he got dogs, and I was like, "Did you actually have to pay?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And it got collected by the customs broker. I'm like, because that's what the question I was going to ask, like, how are they going to do it? Like, how, do they charge a custom broker? Are they going to send me a bill? Is one of those deals I got to pay for it beforehand? So if you're listening to this, you import dogs and you're going to get them from Europe and you're wondering how you're going to pay it, you got to pay your customs broker.
Yeah.
So
you used to be able to clear your own dogs through customs too. That's gone.
Yeah, now I got to pay some dude $100 a dog or whatever it is now. So, which
it is easy though. I will say it's nice when you can go to the airport and just pick up the dog.
Oh yeah, they're cleared before they even hit the ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does not suck for sure. So what are we doing tonight?
So tonight's going to be a fun episode. I think we have. I don't know. I think we were just sitting around talking one day, and my daughter says, "How come I've never been on the show?" And I'm like, "That's a pretty good question, actually. I don't really have an answer for that." So a special guest tonight is my daughter, Vanessa Stanbro. Hi, honey.
Hi. Happy to be here.
Rocking the Stellan Felons hoodie there.
Oh, yeah. Stellan Felons, baby.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is my youngest daughter, Vanessa, who is a couple weeks away from graduating from nursing school. However, she grew up with all of the canines that I worked. My large portion of my time as a policeman, she was there, and because I started before she was born, is my point. But and then she's worked at the kennel for years, helping me with the kennel when we had the police dog kennel, and worked at the doggy daycare and the kennel side of that with dogs and good dogs and bad dogs and everything. So figured we'd kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about, growing up with those dogs and working around the dogs, living with me, just whatever. It's whatever she wants to talk about, wants to say. So I'm going to leave it up to you, Ted, if you want to ask some, take questions. Because my question will be, so let's talk about how awesome I am.
So this is a question. This is a question that comes up all the time. Not about Eric, but just in general about police dogs. So, in fact, not the department that's here today. I had a department here today selecting dogs, but we get the question all the time, like, how is he at home with the kids? And before you answer, like, she's already laughing. Before you answer, like, my stock answer is like, I don't know. I don't test police dogs with kids because that's not their job. So, the handler that was here today, though, Brad, showed me a picture of Jagger, the black Dutchie that he finished dual purpose explosive dog, and he was sitting in bed with his two sons, and dogs, fine. Some dogs can't do it, but some can. So what interaction did you have with Eric's partners?
I was around them all, honestly, except for Zeus. He was the only one that I really wasn't around. I had a very good relationship with every single dog except for Zeus because he was just too mean. Gina was the first dog that my dad had, to my knowledge, but the first dog that I was around for, and I was in love with her. I mean, that dog and I were best friends. And she was so sweet. She loved everybody. She couldn't be a police dog because she was too nice for it. And Willie and Loco were badass dogs, but loved me. I mean, I never was afraid, ever. And I didn't have a reason to be. Zeus scared the hell out of me. So Zeus scared the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. I couldn't be around him, but the rest of them were really nice to me.
This episode is brought to you by DOGTRA, DOGTRA official, DOGTRA.com. You guys have heard us talk about it. We've been with DOGTRA for a long time. We love them. They're amazing people. We love their product. There's so many different things that they do. The 1900S, the hands-free. They got all kinds of things, poppers, droppers, all kinds of different things with their e-collar. But I have been a proponent of their YS600 bark collars for a long time. Everybody knows I talk about it. When I had the kennel open, I would come in and show videos of all the dogs being quiet. The YS600, they have the YS300 for smaller dogs. But here's the thing, guys. They just came out with a bark collar called the Smart Bark Collar. Dude, this thing is amazing. It attaches to an app on your phone. You can control everything out of it, see in real time what's working, what isn't working with the dog. But here's the kicker. It catches whining. That's the big deal with that smart bark collar. It catches the whining because we all know your dogs learn to whine underneath the threshold of other bark collars, and it's super annoying. But with that smart bark collar, it catches the whining. And in the app, while it's working, you can just reach up and hit the vibrate button. There's a little button on your thing that'll vibrate that if that seems to work a little bit better for your dog. Or you can actually administer your own stim as a little bit extra if need be. You can set minimums, maximums, sensitivity levels to pick up that whining. Check out DOGTRA.com. They have a discount code WDR10, 10% off a single item over $200. But check out that smart bark collar, guys. It is amazing. We've been messing with it at my facility, and my employees absolutely love it. Check them out, dogtra.com. So one of the funny stories I tell, not funny stories, one of the stories I tell at everything is how Gina had so many failures to engage on the street, and where she just wouldn't bite people. And I said her whole entire career, she had 2 bites, and both of them were you. Do you even remember those?
Were me. I remember one of them because I remember going to kindergarten and I felt like such a badass because I had a bite mark in my leg. I felt like the coolest kid in school. I was like, a police dog did this to me. And they were like,
oh.
I was like, don't talk about that when you go. And for the record, it was first grade because it was at Malvern your first year.
And this is Eric's first dog.
No. Do you remember it? How it happened?
I do remember. I remember the one, I think. I know that we weren't allowed to play with her without her Kong being in her mouth, and I did. And wasn't I on my scooter and she bit my leg?
Yeah, right in the driveway.
I do remember that.
Yep.
Right in the driveway. I do remember that. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like I was
Ted, it was a good bite. It was 4 punctures, good bite.
Nice.
Full on her leg, full mouth.
Yep. 2 bites was me.
You know, and I always tell handlers, I'm like, you know, you're going to have to use some common sense here about interacting with your family, because I don't, like, it's not my thing. Like, I don't let dogs interact with. Now, like, my nieces are like 6 and 8 and they come up and they'll play with the dogs, like the ones that I let them. And then Alicia goes through and messes with them. And then my girlfriend comes up and pets the dogs, like the gnarly ones, like feeds them French fries and stuff to kind of like desensitize them a little bit. But I don't do a whole lot of that pet stuff. So I leave it up to the handlers. Like one of my local dogs that is a absolute street sweeper, that handler's son wakes up every day and runs that dog through his USPCA trial every morning. Every morning, that kid is out there with that dog. You know, I think he's 12 now, 12 or 14, the kid, and is doing his USPCA obedience routine every morning.
That's
my handler's like, I don't have to do obedience ever. I'm like, yes, you do, but like, yes, you do.
Can't leave it farm it out to your kid.
You can farm it out to a 14-year-old.
The second time you got bit was sled riding. You was sled riding down the driveway and she bit you, and she might have been retired by then. So I worked Gina for 3 years, had 70 failures to engage with her, and I finally got the department to get her out of service. So she was 6 because she was 3 when we got her. So she was 6 years old, and she lived as basically Vanessa's dog for another 7 years, I think.
Yeah, she died I was like 12. She was like 12, I think. We were like the same age.
Yeah, so maybe 6 years, yeah. Well, we had her in 2014 is when she died. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 12.
So Vanessa, I knew that your dad was a police officer and you knew he was a canine handler. And kind of at about what point did you understand like really what he did or did?
I don't really know. I think there was this whole big thing with one of his I almost said cases, not cases, one of his like things that he got into on the job, and that kind of like really set in stone, like it was a big deal. And I remember I wasn't allowed to go to my friend's house because my dad had to go take care of something or like deal with something. And that was kind of like, oh, okay, like my dad actually like deals with, you know, like the law. So that kind of really put in perspective for me that it's like a really big deal, because I just was like, oh, puppies, like so fun. And then I just like never thought about truly how serious it was until like it started to get put into perspective that he was like on the street and like risking his life. And then I feel like I had a good thing of like they didn't shelter me from it, but they hid it from me in a way that like I wouldn't freak out. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't scared every time my dad went to work. But now, knowing what I do, I would be like, why, like, like please be careful every time you know he's going to work.
Yeah,
Now
you know,
knowing that.
yeah, I'm a firm believer that kids shouldn't have to deal with adult problems. So, like on that note, like when my nieces are around, right? Like, you know, they're 6 and 8, and they're like, what do they do? And I'm like, they help police officers find stuff and whatever else. Like, I'm not like pulling up body cam and showing them dogs like smoking dudes, which,
Right.
you know, so like kind of like what I'm getting at here is like, do you remember the first time that you actually saw some of the body cam? Did you ever show her body cam, Eric?
No, we didn't have body cams,
No.
but I probably the first thing she saw was maybe the Willie video.
That's what I was going to say, the Willie video.
Yeah.
Oh, where he goes over the car.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She may have saw a picture here and there. I doubt it, though.
I showed someone that video not that long ago, and they're like, he's such a badass. I was like, right?
Because you were 7 during that video time.
Mm-hmm.
So the incident you're talking about, is that the Perloza case, the guy who died while I was fighting him?
Yep.
Is that the one? I was off for the entire summer while they were trying to charge me with murder in that case. So yeah, I was off for the whole summer and wakeboarded.
I didn't know what I was allowed to say.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a good summer. Stressful, but it was a very sunny and warm summer with very little rain. So we wakeboarded a lot.
I just remember him saying like something about court, and then I found out like I was supposed to go to my friends, and he was like, my mom said something about him having to go to court, but they wouldn't tell me what it was because I was so little. And then eventually I kind of worked it out of him, and like I've read the case online, and like I've gone over it, and he's told me about it. So I got to know about it through there. But something I forgot to say is that like my dad would always drive me around in his cruiser whenever he like wasn't, you know, and we would blare NSYNC in the car because that was our jam. NSYNC and Justin Timberlake is our jam. So we would listen to that, and I just felt so cool whenever we would like speak outside the car, or like I'm in the car with all of these buttons and like the little computer thing that you can like see the road, and I felt so cool in that car, and that was like my favorite times. And I was like, none of my other friends get to do this. Like nobody else is getting in their dad's police car with their dog and going and like jamming to Justin Timberlake.
So, you know, a lot of my like local guys, they'll bring their kids to training sometimes, and like they're older, like they're, you know, close to the teens or whatever, which I got no problem with. And they kind of have some experience like seeing the dogs work and stuff. But do you have like a memory? Because what I'm kind of like working at here is a lot of times, and even for me, like when I'm working, like, and I come home, the last thing I want to do is talk about fucking dogs, which is why when I'm out with people, like, and they're like, oh, you train police dogs, it must be so interesting. I was like, it's not as interesting as you think it is. I swear. I promise it's not. If you like doing the same thing over and over again, it's super interesting. But how much did Eric share with you, like, as you got older? Not necessarily about like what was going on politics wise in the department, but just about the dog stuff, or did he at all?
I mean, he did. Well, a lot of it, like whenever he started VanEss Canine specifically, a lot of it, he was like, we were doing it together, like in the garage. I was in charge of throwing the tennis ball whenever the dog.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And all of his other stuff, I, you know, work out of him over the years. He likes to tell one of my specific guy friends. My dad always tells him stories about his days on the streets and his days with the dogs and whatever. And then I'll overhear it and then I'll make him tell me, but it's like stuff that he didn't want me to know.
I've been to Canton a couple of times and riding around with Eric, and he's like, I got in a fight with a dude there. I got in a fight with the dude there. I bit a dude there. And it's like a tour of like hood Canton. And he was like, yeah, we had a standoff here. And I'm like, God damn, dude. Like every
Google map, Google.
Yes,
you did. All the shootings I had and everything. this one here, guy died right there. That one, that killed that guy right there. It was, I got bored one day.
But it's always interesting. Like, one of the local handlers here at that where I live, they have a dog that I sold them, Green, and the dog is he's one of those dogs that's about that life. And I see pictures of that dog running around in his house with his kids, and I just like, he's a good handler, and I know he's not going to make a mistake, but it just makes my palms itch watching that, because I'm like, bro, this dog has destroyed some people, and you're letting him play with your kids. I'm like, so
That was always tough.
So, and that's the one question, like I said, we started this whole conversation, that's the one question that we get. Like, Eric, how much did you get that? Like, how good is he with kids?
Yeah,
dual
all
purpose.
the time.
Yeah.
Is he good with kids and other dogs? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, our next sponsor is really good for the business side of this. If you're in the business of breeding and or raising police dogs, or even just regular dogs, pets, or gun dogs, or whatever, one of the biggest hassles that we have to deal with is housing. Making sure it's safe, making sure it's high quality, all these things, make sure it's sterile, it's easy to clean, we can feed. If not, it just creates an infinitely higher workload. On top of that, it's expensive. One of our sponsors from Horizon Structures, they do a great job at making a plug and play drop ready to go as soon as it hits the deck in your location. You have a gravel pad, hook it up to electricity and water. You can put dogs in it that afternoon, and all the guesswork is taken out of it. It's ready to go as soon as it gets there, and you can go from mild to wild. I've seen some that have stainless steel on the inside. It looks like an operating room. It comes with its own air conditioner, all the way down to just like a basic one you need to put in the backyard to satisfy your policy requirements. If you're a canine handler out in the back for a 10x10, he's got an indoor outdoor. He's got a little outdoor thing that's elevated, so he doesn't have to stand in any of his waste, and it's easy to clean. So everything from all the way from a single dog all the way up to, I think they do like, what do they do, Eric? Like they do like 16 and 18 like large sizes. So hit them up, horizonstructures.com, and they will get you set up quickly. I mean, what people ask all the time.
Real quick, one thing I learned though is because Gina she was a kennel dog that we made a house dog, and I'm not saying that's why she had so many failures to engage. She just really wasn't about that life, I don't think. But it didn't help. It definitely didn't help. And there's gangster dogs that live in people's houses. I get it. I think I softened her up even a little bit too much. I don't remember if Vanessa had her wearing any outfits or anything like that.
Well, me and my sister would paint her nails.
Fantastic.
We would paint Gina's nails, and she would just let it happen.
Yeah.
And then she would like run around, and then we'd let her lay down, and then we'd paint her nails, and then she'd run, and then we'd catch her again and paint her nails. But Gina was the only one that was really around my friends. I think whenever I would have friends over, that was kind of something that we talked about. Or I feel like we talked about, was that my friends don't go around the police dogs. That was kind of like the unspoken rule, that my friends didn't interact with them. Because they didn't, not like on them, but I'm used to it. I got it.
Well, yeah, I don't mean. And that's kind of like, that's kind of the point I'm driving home, because I just, like when you do like what we do, I joke that I told somebody today, I said, we're kind of institutionalized, and I'm just used to dogs being like this. Most people are not. And I've had not any of our guys, thank God, but heard horror stories of, handlers, dogs biting neighbors' kids and biting their kids and doing dumb shit. And it's one thing that we always ask. And it's one thing we get a lot of that on the through social media and through email too on the podcast, is like, how do I integrate my dog with my family? How do I do this? And I'm like, bro, it's not a hard, fast rule. I think Rich and Eric, who was that did that recently? Rich and, was it them? Was it Police Canine?
About what?
About integrating the dog into the house.
Yeah, it was Rich and Greg and them on Police.
Yeah, that was them. It was really good. If you go listen to that, if you're listening to this, go listen to it. But they talk about a way to do it, and it was it's the same advice that I give, or pretty much the same thing. I think Eric probably does too, but it's not something we've ever talked about. But they did a really good episode recently, within the last like 6 weeks, I think. So
yeah, probably. Yeah, it's a good episode.
So Vanessa, how old were you when Jethro was killed?
That was 17? 16? I was 14. I was in 8th grade.
What do you remember about that time? So for those listening, like if you go all the way back to episode number 1, I don't know, we're episode 2
238, something like that, 230 something.
Yeah, so all the way back to episode 1 was we had on Heslop and Ryan Davis, and who else? There was 3 of them. It was
I
Heslop.
can't remember. It was Chris, Ryan, me. It might have just been us.
I think it was just you 3. But anyway, Ryan Davis was Jethro's handler. So what do you remember about that event? Because it was a pretty crazy event.
I remember hearing about it from my dad because Jethro was young. He wasn't old. I mean, he was spunky, and I loved Jethro. Genuinely, I did. So whenever I found out about it, I remember my dad having to go to the vet, and I kept asking, like, is he alive? And my dad's like, I don't know. And he gets there, and I found out that he died. I was really upset. I mean, I was devastated, and I was so angry that something like that would happen to a dog. You know, like the dog that they don't have a freaking thumb. They can't like pick up a gun and shoot it back. You know what I mean? So it really pisses me off to think about still, and it made me so sad. And I remember telling like a bunch of people about it, and like everybody at my school had heard about it, and it was so big, and it was just so weird because like I knew the family, I knew the dog, and it was sad, and I was angry, and I didn't know kind of where those feelings came from. And still, whenever I think about it, I get mad because how are you about to shoot a dog? Like, that is seriously a problem. Seriously a problem. So I was mad and upset.
Yeah, and at that point, Vanessa had known Ryan her whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I got hired in 96. Ryan got hired in 97. Or maybe even after me in 96. I can't remember. Right around that same time, though. And so we were playing softball together growing up. Their kids knew each other. Didn't see each other a lot except for at functions, but definitely knows them very, very well.
Yeah, and for those listening, that don't know the story, Jethro was killed during a building search, and ended up saving Ryan for sure. But he was a unique case because he was Ryan's second dog, I think, and he was raised from a puppy in Ryan's house. So it wasn't the traditional like go to a vendor, buy a 14, 15, 16, 18, 20-month-old dog, train him up, and then he sits out in like a 10 by 10 concrete, and then he goes to work. Like, he was in the house with the kids. And like, I think today Ryan still even says that they have a bunch of, because Ryan now lives in Florida, but they still have a bunch of the cards that they open all the time, which, yeah. So
that was a lot. Yeah, we got a lot there. And the weird thing was when Jethro got shot, and then when he died a couple of days, like a day and a half later, he was obviously not the first, but the first one that kind of went viral. And then there was a dog, I think in Virginia Beach, that got killed, or maybe Norfolk, but I think it was VB got killed like a couple days later. And then all of a sudden, a week later, another dog gets killed. And then everybody now is like, shit, what is happening? But what had happened was we were paying attention.
Yeah,
I think it had been happening, you know, just it wasn't hitting the internet like it does now, you know.
That's happened a lot recently this year. The beginning of this year, towards the end of last year, we had quite a few that were like that, and had the poor guys in South Carolina had some rough year.
Had a rough time.
The guys in South Carolina had a rough year. Had a rough 12 months for sure. So the Jethro thing, and that's kind of what I mean, because when we talk to, like, a lot of the time when we have people on the show, it's from the handler as a trainer's perspective. We don't ever hear, because we've had handlers on, multiple handlers that have had dogs killed, and we don't ever hear the background, like, oh, how did it affect the family? Like, they tell, like, Ryan was like, you know, the kids were sad and they were upset and his wife was upset, but they didn't really, you know, I think a lot of times living in this bubble, and I say that a lot, but we live in this bubble, and I deal with these dogs all the time, and I deal with these handlers, and I know that they have wives and kids and lives and stuff outside of handling, but I don't ever think like past making sure that the dog works and does his job so that he can go do his job and the dog can go do his job, and then he can go home and do his non-dog stuff. So, you know, hearing like the input on Jethro is super, like, it's when Eric told me we were going to do this episode, I'm like, oh, I'm going to ask her for sure, 100%, because that was a crazy deal. Was there anything in particular that stands out, not necessarily with any of your dogs, any of the other ones that made like local news that would have been like people would, like Vanessa would be like, hey, what happened here?
No, I don't think so. There was always some sort of articles. We would have reporters that we were friendly with that we could get articles in there. Of course, the articles were always about, hey, give us money, which is pathetic that the police department has to go to the media to try to get, money like that. But so I was just thinking, I'm doing the math in my head. When Gina retired, when we retired her and we got Willie, Vanessa would have been 6. So Willie was my second dog. He was already on the street with another handler. Do you remember much about Willie?
Yeah, I feel like I remember more about Gina and Loco, but I do remember Willie, and I remember how devastated I was whenever we gave him, like you retired him and gave him away, or whoever you gave him to get Loco to continue.
The deal was with Bill, the handler. And Bill had a son who is Jake older than you. I think Jake's older than you a little bit, but Jake was devastated because Bill had to give up the dog. The deal was I would take Willie. Willie was 5 years old at the time. I would take Willie and work him. And then the deal was when he retired, he would go back to Bill's house.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I was so distraught.
Yeah, Jake was distraught when I picked him up, devastated because he was a kid, devastated. And then, did you go with me to deliver him back?
Yes, I did. Because I remember sitting in the car on the way back, staring out the window, sobbing like I was in a sad music video. I mean, I was devastated and I wanted the whole world to know how sad I was. But really, Jake and I got the shit end of the stick because he was sad. And then I was so sad because we kept Gina. So I was like, oh, okay, we're going to keep every dog. We're going to keep every single one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to happen that we're going to keep him. And you're like, no, we have to give him back. And I was very unhappy because I liked Willie and he liked me.
Yeah, they only let me work Willie for 8 years or 3 years. He was 8 when they retired. He lived 5 more years. He had plenty left in him, but they had Zeus, a free dog, waiting. And so they're like, well, you better take this dog. You might never get another one. It was some real scammy stuff. But I remember going to Bill's house and Jake was across the street at a friend's house and saw me pull in and just came sprinting over. So now his life got really good. He got his best buddy back. And, and Vanessa had to cry and sob the whole entire way home.
It was really not fair. I was so happy when you got rid of Zeus. You told me he was going and I was like, when? Please tell me tomorrow.
Yeah. Zeus was trash. So the department had gotten this free dog and they were housing him at a handler's house who had a little kennel. They ultimately had to pay that handler a bunch of money at the end. They tried to scam him out and he ended up winning in a lawsuit, but they had this free dog. So they wanted me to take it. So it would have been my first class as the head trainer. So 2011, me, another handler in Canton, and then another agency had a dog in that class. So they made me take Zeus, who was a very good looking all black shepherd, 90% defense. Yeah, just a trash dog. But that handler at the time had convinced. He just was convinced that a police dog is out at the end of the leash. Rah, 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 rah. So he had the department convinced about that because he had found the dog for them. So they had this defensive piece of shit that I had to work. And I hated that dog. Absolutely hated him. He had enough prey drive to get through training. He bit hard as can be. He actually bit Cheyenne, our other girl, bit her after she put his food down and walked away, and he tagged her in the back, I think. Maybe the back of the arm. Did you ever bite you?
Get her in the hand?
He might have got her in the hand.
I wasn't allowed to interact with him. The only interaction that I had where he ever touched me and I ever got to touch him was my dad and my sister used to go fishing and they would bring the worms back because I didn't like to fish at the time. They'd bring the worms back and I would take the worms and I would go set them free in the woods. So I was in the middle of setting the worms free and I hear my dad start yelling. And then Zeus comes busting out the door straight towards me. And I'm kind of like bent over with the worms. And he hits his nose like on my back butt and just launches me in the woods. That's the only time he touched me. Was his nose hitting me and launching me in the woods. And I fell face first on the ground. And I remember that. And he just ran back inside. Like he was so proud of himself. And because I remember my dad was like, yeah, this is not going to be like a Willie Gina situation. Like this dog will, F you up. And
see, guys, that was a great handler. I let dogs spider escape by accident. To Just all kinds of stupid handler
It
stuff.
built character. It built my character. Seriously, I wouldn't be the same
Yeah.
person if Zeus
She's
didn't
9.
walk
I'm
me
like,
in.
go feed him. You know, what? I know he bites. Suck it up,
So-
kid. This episode is brought to you by our good friends, the Perkinsons, down at Highland Canine Training. Highland, HIGHLAND Canine Training. They're a really cool place, guys. They have a school for dog trainers, pet dogs and working dogs. That is an amazing spot, man. You can go there. And it's no joke. Like, you're not going to be there for 3 weeks and come back with some stupid certificate. This is like a 6-month school for dog trainers. You learn every aspect of it, including the business side of dog training, which can be tough, especially for us former cops or current cops or military guys that don't really know all that stuff. They've been doing it forever. They offer online courses. They sell police dogs. They have canine handler schools. They offer in-person supervisor courses. Check them out, guys. HighlandCanine.com is the website to go check it out. Everything's on that front page there. It's a very nice website. Check them out, HighlandCanine.com. For the supervisor schools, I think there's a 30% off with the discount code WDR30, HighlandCanine.com.
So I'm going to tell you the story, Vanessa, then tell me if anything like this has ever happened to you. So one of my handlers is in a department south of here. It's not important where, but the handler was in a chase with Highway Patrol, and they get this car stop. This dude gets out and runs. Turns out he's 18 years old, and he's just graduated from high school, and he had done a bunch of hood rat stuff. He had like beat somebody up, stole something. He needed to go to jail. Anyway, the dog bites him, and he fights with the dog, fights with the handler, fights with troopers, fights with everyone. The dog did his job. And about a week and a half later, my handler's son, who's 13 or 14 at the time, is in wrestling practice, and turns out the kid that got bit was somebody else's cousin, and they wanted to fight about it at school during wrestling practice. And of course, so I was like, oh, they're like, yo, your dad bit my cousin. Like, it turned into this whole thing. And the kid, to his credit, is like, well, and I guess word for word was like, shouldn't have been doing hood rat shit then, and he wouldn't have gotten bit. It's all he said. So did you ever have any of that to go down? Like, hey, like your dad bit me. Cause I was Eric that you told me a story of Heslop that they bit somebody, and then like the dude walks up to him at the gas station like 6 years later. He's like, you don't remember me, do you? And shows him a scar. He's like, you saved my life.
No, that was me. That was Willie bit a guy from a burglary. And no, it was like a year or so later, but the guy was in the hospital for 50 days. He had
not from the dog bite.
Oh, yes, it was.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The dog. So Willie bit him in the leg, and then he reached down to hit him, and Willie let go and bit him in the arm and severed everything in his arm. Everything. Ooh. I had to I had to bandage it. I almost said tourniquet. We didn't have those. The ambulance showed up, and they're like, they didn't tell us you shot him. I'm like, I didn't shoot him, dude. That's a dog bite. I was wrapping gauze, jamming it up in there.
Willie turned his arm into ground beef.
Everything destroyed. Every artery, every vein, every ligament, tendon, everything. And then when it was about a year later, he got arrested on the warrant for that case. And said it changed his life and saved his life and changed his perspective.
So do you have anything like that happened?
No. Most of my, like, I'm from, obviously we're from a really small town. So nobody was getting bit in Malvern, Ohio. It was just not happening there. And luckily I never had incidences like that in Canton. However, one of my mom's friends did get bit by one of the dogs.
Hold on. We'll get to that one.
Oh, okay.
I'm blaming you for that one.
It was not my fault.
So Willie's gone. We have Zeus. I have Zeus for about a year, and he's complete trash. We go search a building where an alarm break-in happened, like a good kick-in break-in, and the real loud industrial alarms going off. Dude, that destroyed that dog. He would not go back inside buildings. He was such a pain in the butt that I had to start videoing it, getting guys to video it on the street to show how bad it was. I'm like, hey, point your car, because we only had car cameras. Point your car at the door so we can watch this dog refuse to work. And because the department didn't want to spend any money, but we talked him into it. So At this time, Canton had never had a Malinois. It was all German Shepherds. And we're talking 2012, right? Never had a Malinois. So I talk because of the narrative that Malinois are crazy. You can't have a Malinois; they're crazy. So I go out and buy one from the department named Loco. Bitch, you want to say he's crazy? We'll give him a crazy name. On paper, we called him Luco, but so Loco came back, and I talk about him in my seminars. He was the kennel spinner, running full round in the kennel, up off the roof of it, around nonstop. If he was in the house, he would run circles, just run circles and circles and circles. So I was out of town so I used to have a Harley, and I was riding motorcycles. Vanessa used to be one of my riding partners. She would ride.
I was not a good riding partner, mind you. He would have to bungee cord me onto the bike because I would fall asleep on the bike.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd have to ride with my arm behind my back.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I loved it though. I would fall asleep.
Her helmet would bang me in the back of mine. Boom. I was like, what? Wake up. I'm like, you have got to stay awake.
I couldn't.
Yeah. She's like, I'm 10.
I couldn't stay awake. I can't stay awake in cars still. I mean, I'm 23 now, can't stay awake in cars. So I always say how bad I want to get a motorcycle. And my best friend always yells at me and she's like, you used to fall asleep on your dad's motorcycle. You're not. And I was like, I wouldn't fall asleep if I was driving it. And I would only ride
motorcycle.
Okay. Well, we'll put a pin in that. But anyways,
right.
Sorry, continue.
So we get Loco. Or before the incident you're going to tell about, what do you remember?
About Loco?
Yeah.
I loved him. I thought he was the funniest dog on the face of the planet. Everything he did made me laugh because we had German Shepherds and they're like, okay. And then here's Loco, who's a nut, and he jumps 18 feet in the air and runs full speed 24/7. It was like living with a cheetah. And it's nothing that I had seen. Obviously, I've seen a lot of Mals now, but he was the first one that I'd ever seen. I thought he was like the coolest thing, and I was obsessed with him. And to my knowledge, me and Loco got along, right? Like I never had an issue with him.
Yeah, I didn't. I again, another one that would put a toy in his mouth, and didn't let him around you that much. But you could go up to the fence and the gate and scratch him for a long time. He would like that.
He liked me with that.
So, anyways, I had a motorcycle, Ted, and I was riding with friends, and I was out of town, about 2 hours away, over in Pennsylvania. I wasn't going to spend the night. I was still coming home that night, but I was hanging out with a group of guys riding bikes, and we're out of town. So then my phone rings, and I answer the phone, and it's Vanessa screaming on the phone. And all I hear is Loco bit Kelly. That's all I get out of it. Screaming bloody murder on the phone. And again, Vanessa is 10 years old at this point. You can take over from here.
So Kelly was my mom. Well, it still is one of my mom's really good friends. And Kelly and her daughters were over because we were all really close whenever I was little. And we were there and everybody loved to see the police dog. That was the thing. So I was like, yeah, we walked down like to the fence. And I was like, you can see him. And I was scratching him like I usually do. And then we go to walk away. And Kelly asked me if she could pet him. And I said, probably not a good idea. And she reached her arm over the fence and he tagged her on her arm. Now, knowing what I know now, I mean, it was a deep bite, but I was terrified because I'm 10 and he got her. But it wasn't anything that was like life or death, life or limb. You know what I mean? Like it was okay.
It's a pretty good bite though.
It was a good bite. It was a good bite. But knowing what I know now, I, for whatever reason, thought she was going to die in that moment. She wasn't going to die. Her arm wasn't going to fall off. Everything was fine. But I was petrified and it was horrible. And then she said it was my fault. And I said, I told you not to do it. So Dad, you can't even blame me. They asked to see the dog. I walked her down to see the dog and she kerploop. And yeah, it was pretty bad. So then
she's laying in the driveway, Ted. My wife tells me she comes because my wife was in the house. She comes outside and Kelly's laying on the driveway, bleeding everywhere.
Yeah. So then I'm like screaming. I think that, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to call 911. She's going to die. And she She kept her arm. Everything's completely fine. Her and my mom are still friends to this day. Her and I are close. Her and my dad are good friends. But then that was traumatizing because I'm that little, and that's traumatizing. And then my dad gets in a motorcycle accident that night coming home, and I found out about it 12 hours after it happened. That's what I wake up to. I wake up to my mom being like, hey, your dad's in the hospital because he got in a motorcycle accident. I think he's okay. Like, he might be okay. Like, he has a concussion, but he's okay. And I was like, what? So that was just traumatizing. I watched a woman bleed out in our driveway, and then I find out that my dad gets in a motorcycle accident 12 hours later. And I was so pissed at Loco. I loved him, but I'm like, seriously, because I blamed him for the motorcycle accident. Still do. Love him to death, but still do. Even though it wasn't your fault that you got.
We've talked about it, Ted, too. That was she's screaming on the phone. I'm just furious because why does everything have to happen when I'm 2 hours away? So I get on the bike and I'm just flying home. And I rode fast to begin with, but I was flying home. And the last thing I remember is slowing down, going, it's a nice night. It was beautiful, dude. It was like 80 degrees. I'm like, I'm just going to slow down. What am I going to do? They're already on their way to the hospital. There's nothing I can really do. Going 100 miles an hour isn't going to do anything. So I remember slowing down to where I was on a back highway on 55 miles an hour. And then I woke up in the ambulance on the way, probably 45 minutes later on the way to the hospital.
Damn.
Yeah.
Lots of things happened that night, Ted.
Wow. That I didn't realize that was the same night. Like, I think I'd heard I haven't heard the full story of the Loco thing, but like I've heard I didn't put two and two together that was the same night. Wow. Okay. That's yeah. So what ended up happening? Kelly's okay. She still uses her arm. Like, she's good to go.
Still uses the arm. Lived to tell the tale. Was completely fine. What happened? She went to the hospital. I'm assuming got stitches and was okay.
I don't know. His internet jacked up. So
well, all I know is that she's fine now and can use her arm. And I, to my knowledge, I don't think she had any issues with that. Like, I don't know how many issues she had with that after, but yeah, pretty crazy stuff.
All right, this episode is brought to you in part by KINETIC Dog Food, KINETICDogFood.com. We've been using KINETIC for quite a while at the kennel here at Torchlight. We feed the 26 and the 28K formula in feeding for the dogs over there, but I also use the 24K for all of my imprinting for obedience and imprinting for tracking. If you follow me, you've seen me do the tracking stuff where I do the Dick Stall method, who we've also had on the show. But it's great because it's large and it doesn't get greasy and gross in the pouch. I've seen a lot of dudes with drop pouches that look like they're carrying dirty socks around, and it's disgusting. This doesn't do that. It's not greasy. Also, it's not a chicken-based formula, so if you get dogs in from Europe, you're not sure if the stomach is going to handle it. And it's a fairly low-calorie version, too, so you can do 1,000,000 reps and not have to worry about dog getting fat. KINETICDogFood.com. Also, we've had the guys on the show before, and they talk about it, but they do a lot to make sure that the protein bases are nice and pure, and that the stuff that they're adding to it actually adds additive to it, and they're not filling it with pocket lint and sawdust like a lot of other foods. So hit them up, KINETICDogFood.com. Get set up. The last thing I heard from you, Eric, was you woke up 45 minutes later in the ambulance, and then I asked Vanessa what was up with Kelly's arm. She can still use it and whatever else. So when we hear in a second, I'll just come back and say, so what happened? Was there any admin fallout with the thing or whatever else? You can answer that. So Kelly can still use her arm, which is nice. So Eric, was there any admin fallout for that, or
no? Because and Kelly wrote I can't remember. I think she wrote a statement that she went and put her arm over top of the fence. We had a kennel for him, but my dumb ass went out riding bikes and left a trained biting police dog in the backyard in a fenced-in backyard with my wife and 10-year-old daughter, and fuck it, see how it goes.
That's not your fault.
See how it goes. But yeah, then the next was Cheyenne's party the next day or the day after that?
Cheyenne's party was, I want to say the day after that.
Because I crashed on a Friday.
So it was the day after then. It was that
Saturday. So Lori comes, she has to come quite a ways away up to Youngstown, Ohio to get me at, it's hour and a half probably to come get me from the hospital. And because the bike is totaled, I don't even know where that's at. I don't know the accident. I don't remember. I still don't remember the accident. I still don't know what happened. So the next morning, did she tell you that morning about it?
She told me right before she left to go get you.
I don't even remember what time that was.
She
I
went.
thought that was still in the middle of the night.
Well, then maybe no, because she definitely left. I knew she was leaving before she left. So I knew long after the fact though. Like I didn't know when it happened. I was so confused because I remember I was told as I just woke up. So I was like really out of it. I think this is what I remember.
Yeah. So
but
she told you that I probably had a concussion, that it was okay.
Yeah, she kind of explained it to me, and I was like, well, my dad's dead. So, like, he's, in the hospital, kaput. That's what so then I'm telling all my friends, I'm like, my dad's like half dead, fighting for his life. And
yeah, so Cheyenne's graduation party's the next day, and I don't remember it. Still to this day, I don't remember it. The party. So I ended up having a pretty severe brain injury from the whole thing. Do you remember any of that over the coming months after that?
No, other than like I feel like a lot of the times he had this big like bowl thing on his head. Like his head was like round his forehead was like protruded and round.
Like the Geico guy. It looked like that guy.
And I remember whenever he would come out to Cheyenne's party, he was like super, because he like got up a couple times and came out, and we were like, get the hell back in the house. Like, what are you doing? But I feel like for the upcoming months, you were very much like lethargic and just not yourself. And because you've always been a super goofy person. Like that's contrary to popular belief, everybody that's listening, my dad is a goof in a good way, a goof in a good way. So he wasn't really himself. And then all of a sudden you started like coming back to it and everything. And I feel like you eventually got to the point where you were the exact same dad that I had before, but you were super out of it for a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I definitely was way off.
Yeah, just not the same.
Yeah, and I still have some issues underlying from it, some memory things. And again, like I said, I still don't know anything about the crash. I can guess what happened based off the drawings, but I don't know.
Oh, I do remember though, they had to cut your like pants off. You had those camo pants, and they had to cut them off. And me and Yaya tried to make them into a dress for me because I loved them.
Oh,
the way that they cut them, they looked like a dress, and I was so excited. I wanted my grandmother to make me a dress out of these pants so bad, and it never really happened. But they like fit me like a dress at the time because of the way they cut them. And he brought them home, and I was like, ooh, a dress. And I loved it. I felt so cool. And my dad's pants that he almost freaking died in.
Yeah.
I felt so cool.
So, what was one of the other things? Oh, so your dad worked dual purpose dogs his entire career, and trained dual purpose dogs his entire career, and singles. But, when was the first time you ever, he posted a video within the last year of you in a bite suit. But when was the first time did he ever let you get in a bite suit beforehand?
I mean, I feel like I've gotten in them a lot and taken pictures in them, but I've never like actively done anything in said bite suit until 2020. I think that's when I got bit for the first time.
I remember the videos at the fun house. There was a dog. And was it Simon? Was it Garber's dog?
Yeah, it was a pretty solid, workable dog.
Right.
Well, here's the thing: is that he made me wear that compression sleeve under the bite suit, and I was pissed because he doesn't let anybody else wear that, and they get all these bruises and they have all these bad. But don't even make that face because you wouldn't let me, and everybody all the other men there were bitching because they're like, you always say that we're gonna be little wussies if we don't wear it and stuff.
Dude, I'm wearing
like,
2 of them things, man.
You don't let people do though. But you made me, and I was like, Dad, I'm gonna be fine. And you're like, Vanessa, I swear to God, if you don't put that thing on, like, we're not doing it. But I would put the bite suit all the time whenever I was little. I loved the sleeve. Like the bite sleeve was so cool to me because it was, I don't know why I loved it, but I would always just mess with them, but it was never anything that I was allowed to like. I wasn't allowed to put bite suits on around the dogs. That was like, if I wanted to put on the bite suit, it had to just be like nobody I was just like putting it on for fun.
I'm sure. I think I have a picture of you in the bite suit top where it's almost the length of your whole body. I think I have one of those little kid when you were little kid.
Yeah. And I used to love, because my dad would do like demos at different places whenever I was little. And sometimes I wasn't able to go, like it lined up where I would like had to go with him. And I loved it. I saw people get bit. I saw people get tased. I thought it was so fun. And I would just like do my own little thing at these demos and enjoy myself in the back. I wasn't allowed in the room. I wasn't allowed to make a scene, but I would always watch from some point of the school or the building. And I loved seeing people get bit and tased, which is like, sounds really bad, but like, I think it was really sick.
So, Eric, while you were at Canton, the canine unit was pretty active. A lot of those dogs retired with 70, 80, 100, 120 bites. And like Willie retired with like 100
127-ish about.
And Loco retired with...
I don't know how many Loco had. So I worked Loco until I left for the Naval Special Warfare contract. And I had, in the year that I worked him on the street, probably, I don't know, 6, 8, something like that. And I know Trey, the handler after me, worked him for a while and had a bunch. So say 30.
So you had a ton of bites in your. So when you would come home after a shift where you would bite somebody, did you share that information, or you're like, oh, it's another day, like nothing happened, or?
I definitely told my wife Lori about it, and maybe even a picture here and there. But I don't know that I just never really talked about a lot of that stuff with Vanessa, and she was, like Willie. Willie was the first 89 days I worked with Willie after class. I know it's 89 days because they put me in the gang unit, and if it was more than 90,
you went to the gang
they
unit.
would have had to create a position. So 89 days, and I had like 25 bites in those 3 months. I guarantee I didn't. If I did, Vanessa was 10 years old. She wasn't picking up on that.
Yeah, and it's just stuff I overheard over the years. And like now he can, if I ask about it, he'll tell me about it. But like I said, I feel like they were really good at keeping it. I wasn't sheltered from it, but I was also not made aware of like just how dangerous it was, because I genuinely think I'd freak out. And I think that that's just like not what you need to tell a kid. But no, he would come home and like we would wrestle. My dad and I used to wrestle all the time. So he would come home from work where he just got a bite, and then me and my dad would wrestle. And like, that's it. That was my biggest part of the day, was wrestling.
Yeah. She dislocated my jaw one time. Did a butt bounce on me in the bed, just jumped up and a full weight and everything on my face. And I had to go to sniper school like the next day. And when I'm shooting,
lay on your face.
When I'm shooting there, my jaw would lock open. And I'd have to force it. Man, that sucked. That hurt. Like that was a long 2 weeks, man.
I lost my first like 2 teeth wrestling with my dad. My first 2 baby teeth.
That's right. You should have listened.
It was. What was I about to say? There was when did I shoot a gun for the first time? When did I leave that voicemail?
Oh, so what she's talking about is my wife has a voicemail. I took Vanessa out to the gun range with a pistol, and we shot, and she was little. I'm gonna say like 7, 6 maybe, maybe 5 even, and she's like, Mama, this is Vanessa Stanbro. Like, we don't know who it is. Mama, this is Vanessa Stanbro. I got to go shoot a gun today, and it was pathetic. And she goes, I know you really like it, Mama, but I don't. I didn't. It was very loud.
And I was like, I can't wait to see you shoot a gun one day, Mom, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, Vanessa, Lori still has that voicemail on there. So, yeah, so then Loco, we ship. So I left. Talk about the California stuff when you thought we were moving.
Oh, so I was in 6th grade, and we still had Gina. By the way, Gina was, this was like the tail end of Gina, and she was really old. And I remember my dad telling me, I don't remember what setting, but I remember telling me that he got an offer to train dogs for the Navy SEALs. And I was like, holy crap, like that's crazy. Because I knew who they were, you know what I mean? Like I knew about it, and this was after the whole SEAL Team 6 thing. So like I knew about that. And it was pretty crazy to think about. And then he was like, I was like, okay, like, are we moving to San Diego, like California? And he was like, well, maybe, and I was devastated because I had my whole life was in Ohio, except for the fact that at this time my biological mom had lived in North Carolina. So that would put me even farther away from her. And my whole life was in Ohio. So I was like freaking out because, that's the biggest thing I had to worry about as 12 years old, is us moving to California. So he would leave every time he left it, like he would come back and it would be awesome. And then he'd leave. And it was just like gut wrenching. I mean, I didn't know how much longer we were going to have to do that. I remember seeing him in the airport and it was just like so sad. I mean, I was devastated. And whenever Gina, it was like her last couple days and he knew that. So he flew home and I didn't know he was coming home. So it was a really big surprise and it was really sad, the circumstances that he came home. But after that, I was just like, I don't think I can handle, like, I can't handle being away from my dad anymore. Like, I just can't. Cause I mean, he is my best friend. Like, as corny as that is, he is. So I was like, I can't be away from him any longer. So it was hard, but I was so proud of him and I loved seeing pictures and I loved hearing about it. And I mean, still so proud, so proud. And I wish I wasn't. Sometimes, Dad, I'm sorry for being such a little bitch about it, but I am so happy that we didn't end up moving out to California. So happy, very thankful. But yeah, it was pretty hard. It was hard, but it was a weird thing because you want to be so happy for someone doing something so amazing, but then selfishly you're like, but can you not? Can you just like stop it and come home? So whenever he told me he was coming home, it was like the best day of my life. I was like, okay, cha-ching, not moving to California. And my dad's like done going out there to do other stuff. So thank
I
God
actually think I told you before I told Mama.
that you were done.
I remember being on San Clemente Island. We were doing the West Coast workup, and they had a phone there on the base. You can call anywhere with it. And I remember calling home and talking to you and telling you. And I think I said, don't tell Mama yet, but I made a decision I'm not staying. The contract, we've talked about, it was very in flux, not stable whatsoever. The company wasn't stable. It was just, I love the job, but it was just very, very weird. Company still not stable. And then I did take into consideration that Vanessa said, I don't want to leave my school. I like my school. I have never said that in my life because I hate school, hated it. I did good. I was okay. I was a decent student. I was pretty much a B student, but I hated it every minute of my whole life. Hated college, hated every class I ever took, just hated it. And so when a kid tells you they love their school, I think you got to pay attention to that a little bit. And if that was a great job, if that was a great gig and pay was super amazing and everything like that, you would have been in Southern California. You would have been in a new school in somewhere down there in San Diego.
Yeah. And I mean, it all would have worked out, but obviously I'm very glad that we didn't go because I love the life I have here. But yeah, that was a big part of it. I forgot that you had told me that like me loving Malvern so much, that was like such a big deal.
I've been up there a couple times. Like, the lake is cool. I understand why you didn't want to leave. And I've been to San Diego, and it's cool, but I don't know if I'd want to live there. I mean, the weather's nice, but
my grade, we were all so close because I graduated with 55 kids. The grade above me was 32, like very small school. So you are so close with all of your classmates and you grow up with them. It's like I had been with these classmates since first grade, and then now it was sixth grade, and then we were all together when we graduated. So that was another thing, was like I was having so much fun where I was, and I like had my friends and was doing my thing. And yeah, so whenever he told me that, I was like, you guys can go. I'm just going to like stay here and figure it out. 'Cause like, I'm not going, I'm not going.
Probably one of my favorite companies to deal with in this industry is Ray Allen Canine. What I really love about Ray Allen Canine is I need one website. I don't got to bounce around to a bunch of different places. I go to rayallen.com and everything I need. Because remember, guys, I have a pet dog training business, same with Ted, and we do police dogs. I'm a pet dog owner. Anything I need dog related. It's not just working dogs stuff. It's dog stuff. Anything I need, Ray Allen has. RayAllen.com has everything you need, from leashes, harnesses, bowls, anything you could possibly do. And here's the cool thing. They're always innovating some really cool stuff. If you follow them on their social media, you'll see Matt on there demoing a bunch of cool stuff they have. They're out in Colorado, got an amazing facility out there. One stop shop, nowhere else to go and look. RayAllen.com. Use the discount code WDR10 RAY for 10% off. WDR10 RAY for 10% off at RayAllen.com.
So if you follow Eric, not you, Vanessa, but people listening, if you follow E on social media, you'll see, especially in the warmer months, like you'll probably see it pretty soon. You guys live on a private lake. Eric's got a ski boat, and it seems like him and Lori are out every night, like on the ski boat at night, just like driving around. When I've been up there, every night we go out on the ski boat and just drink beer and sit on the boat and listen to music and hang out and whatever. So, but you also ski, so tell me about skiing.
Me?
Yeah. We're interviewing you. Nobody wants to hear about Eric. Well, everybody knows who Eric is. Like, shit about Eric. So
I grew up water skiing, and I did it with all of my really good friends. And there was a ski club. There still is, but I mean, it was huge whenever I was little. Back in the day at my lake, there was a ski club, and we would do 2 shows a year, 4th of July and one in like September, October. And Dad, when did you join the ski club? Did you join when I joined?
No. So, well, we joined, but I didn't do the ski. So Vanessa joined. It's funny, man. So I was, this Canton City cop kicking ass, doing this and that. And when I came down, I moved down here with Lori down to the lake, and I was antisocial. I didn't talk to anybody. I would just have Canton guys come down on the weekends, and we would hang out. It was just cops and people I knew from Canton. And I did not invest myself into the local people, the local community. Vanessa she was in kindergarten up in Canton. We transferred her down to Malvern. She starts first grade at Malvern, meets a kid named Ryan the first day. She calls him Mr. Man. She goes, "Look at you, Mr. Man," because he's dressed up with a tie, right?
Oh, also to interject, this is the guy friend I was telling you about that my dad tells all these things to, and I just overhear it. My dad and Mr. Man are like this.
Yeah, first grade, first day, meets Ryan and his mother. We are, to this day, they're some of the closest friends of ours. We see them several times a week. I helped Ryan years ago when he was a teenager launch a business by being his first customer of getting boats off the docks, winterizing them.
You've told me that.
Getting that kid going. I'm like, hey, do you think you could learn how to winterize a boat? Because he had a mentor at the lake. He goes, I don't know. I'll ask him. Now Ryan, who was he salutatorian of your class?
No, but he was
a 4.0 student.
We only had one.
Super smart.
He's so smart.
He has a rockin' marina type boat business now. Like, this is how close in this community. To put it in perspective, Vanessa's boyfriend Sam, they've been together since Vanessa's 14 years old. She's 23 years old now. So, like, this is just such a small, tight community. So I would go to the Saturday ski practices. Fuck that, I ain't doing that shit. And I just sit up in the car, and I was working night shifts, so I'd fall asleep, and they're trying to get me because we needed guys. You need guys to base these pyramids and everything like that. I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, screw these people. And it was actually, I think it was Ryan's dad said, hey man, when we first moved here, we didn't join in the community. We just, we're bringing people from out of town here all the time. And I tell you, if you start doing where you just invest in here and stop having to teach people every weekend how to ski and how to entertain people every weekend, you'll really enjoy it. And he was dead right. I basically cut off all I wasn't having anybody come down anymore. And I just started going to the ski practices. So I don't know when you were in it, 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years before I joined.
And then we did it from then up until my senior year of high school. And then 2020 was the year we didn't do it, obviously with COVID and stuff, but we did it 2019. That was the last year we did it. But basically I told my dad, like, I'm going to ski in the ski club until I graduate high school. And he did it with me. And that was like an awesome bonding thing, to be there with my dad and like to be with all my really good friends. And it was just so fun. And like sometimes my dad and I would be in a pyramid together where I would be on his shoulders, or like I would climb over to him. And it was awesome. I loved being in that with my dad. And I mean, I don't ski as much anymore, obviously, but I do love it. If I ski now, it's like very here and there. And I do still love to teach people to ski. I just was talking to someone the other day about how I wanted to ski more this summer just because I miss it. But yeah, there's pictures of me. My favorite picture of my dad and I is I used to do this thing called ballet skiing and or like swivel skiing, and it's this long, fat wooden ski. And the way you get on it, like the way you're supposed to get on it, is it's called a hop dock. So you literally like your right foot is in the boot. Your left foot is just free because it's one ski, and you step off the dock and the boat just pulls you. So I have I have pictures of my dad and I doing that, and it's like him falling all over the place, and the rope is like it's so funny. And then there's ones I'm making him hold his legs up, like I'm making him, or his left leg up, like I'm making him point his toe and like look all pretty, and he's holding on to me for dear life in the picture, and we're just staring at each other cracking up. And those are my favorite pictures. Like I will post them on my Instagram like once a month. I mean, I'm obsessed with them still. And that was 6 years ago. And that's just something really special to have done with my dad. But I love skiing. So fun.
So Ted, let me explain to you how flippin' difficult this stuff is. So you're sitting on a dock and you have a girl on your shoulders. She may or may not have a rope in her hand. If she's climbing, she has a rope so that she can use it to help climb. The boat, there's several pairs next to you. The boat takes off. He gets to the end, whap, rips you off the dock. If you bend at the waist, you will face plant. The girl, you, everybody. If you lean back too far to avoid face planting, your skis slip out and you fall out the back. So the key is you have to keep that handle low and keep it from coming up. Imagine that's a boat pulling you and you're trying to not let it pull the thing out ahead of you. And so there was all these girls that are all about the same age. Were growing up, and you feel bad because if it's during the show and you're doing a pyramid and you crash, well, the pyramid's ruined, right? And you have, I always felt bad when that happened. And when you're learning this, you're crashing over and over and over again. And Vanessa and I were in a thing called inverted pyramid for several years in a row, which is more girls on top than guys on the bottom at some point. It was a lot of fun, but all these girls, Vanessa, this other girl, Sarah, her sister, Natalie, all these girls were athletes, every one of them. So when they were 10, no big deal. When they were 14, all of them were in gymnastics or dance or cheer. They got muscles and they're getting heavy. And it was just, so dude, one of my favorite things is she would climb on top of me and I'd go, ugh, like that. Very rude.
And I'm like, not the fat joke. Not the fat joke.
Very rude. But the girls could choke you with their legs, like, because they squeeze, they hold on tight, squeeze, squeeze. And I'm like, less squeeze, less.
You're like, I'm fully.
You were just getting prepped for jujitsu,
right? Yeah.
I'm fully squeezing his carotid artery.
So then she and I would talk a lot during the thing. If I felt like I was gonna fall, she would pull forward on that rope. And I don't know. It was we had some good times doing that.
Yeah, we had a really good system going with our like dock starts and stuff like that. We had it down pat, the two of us together.
Yeah, that stuff's tough, man. I see people do it all the time effortlessly. I'm like, man, I was good as okay at it. I never got really consistently great.
Yeah, I remember I used to be like really scared to do a lot of stuff whenever I first started because I was so young. I stopped when I was 17, but I don't know how. I started young. And like he said, we all grew up, we all got muscly. It was easier to stay on guys' shoulders. But whenever I was little, I remember so vividly my first time ever doing a dock start on a guy's shoulders, like a shoulder start. It was this guy named Rob Green. God love him. He, at the time, had humongous shoulders. And I was like 7 and did not have long enough legs, because you're supposed to put your legs around their shoulders and then lock them on their back. That's kind of like what you're supposed to do. And I didn't have long enough legs, and he had too big of shoulders, but they made me go on Rob because he was super steady like this. I was so young. And I'm like, okay, I slipped right off of his shoulders. He stood up and I flipped right off the back, and I did not want to ever do it again. I was so scared. And then it was fine once I learned how to do it. Like, I would have to kind of like, I had to grip Rob's forehead one time to keep me from flying off. And then eventually my legs grew and I could like maneuver a little bit, and it was a little bit easier. But yeah, I used to be terrified. I loved it so much to the point that like I didn't want to quit, but I was so scared whenever we would have to do all these things that I had never done before. I was like, okay.
But the craziest thing, man, is 8 years old, 9 years old. There's these girls like Vanessa. One summer, she was the top of the pyramid girl. So she had to climb all the way up while water skiing from my shoulders to on top of another girl, and top all the way up to the top of this pyramid, stand up while the boat goes around. Yeah. I don't know how high off the water you are, but
pretty high.
I don't know, man. If I'm a kid that age, I don't know if I have the nerve to do that stuff. But these girls were flipping, and they were all gymnastics, so like weird stuff was pretty normal to them.
Yeah.
So
my what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Well, Ryan, that kid Ryan that we were talking about, his sister Paige is one of my best friends, and Paige and Ryan, their whole family skis for another like 2, but they compete. So like where I skied, we didn't compete. We just would do shows for like the people that wanted to come in Malvern, like in our lake. But Paige and Ryan compete. So also Paige just got 5th in worlds for swivel. She's amazing. I mean, like an amazing water skiers on Team USA, pretty much like the Olympic team for water skiing. But she was someone that I looked up to a lot, even though she's like a little bit younger than me. Paige was so good at skiing, and she is someone that I looked up to a lot, and she was so supportive to even my dad. Like, she would be like, Eric, it's okay, you got this. And like, she would help me climb the pyramid and everything. And that's kind of someone that I really learned from. And, yeah, so I'm still really close with them to this day, but that's Mr. Man's sister. So
somebody that's been with us since the beginning is Arnaud at ALM, based out in Vegas. Arnaud makes fantastic bite suits. I've been a senior level PSA decoy for a long time. All of my trial suits are ALMs. I love them. I've sent my one jacket back multiple times to have new sleeves put on it because it fits so well. Arnaud works with you through the process, helps you get a design set up. In fact, when I went out to see him in Vegas, he had my original design still in my original pattern still in the workshop there, and he was able to make me another jacket just out of the one that I have that's like 10 years old. He made me another one. Super high quality materials, super high quality stitching. Great service after the fact if you have to have repair work done. Hit him up, ALM K9 Equipment. That's the letter K number 9.com. ALM K9 Equipment. Use this discount code WD Radio for 10% off. Another person that has been with us since the beginning is the person that wrote the music for the intro and the outro on this. His name's Brother Dege. He's no longer with us. He's a super talented musician. And I actually met him at a live show here in Tulsa. Super nice guy. He was super supportive of what we do here and what police dogs do in general. And he was gracious enough to allow us to use the music for that. But shout out to Brother Dege. Rest in peace, buddy. Yeah, wherever you're at, you can look at him on iTunes and on Spotify. Just Brother Dege, spelled Dege, and it's brotherdege.net. So listening to like doing this interview, before we started recording, I was like, Eric, what are we going to talk about? And you were like, I don't know, we're just talk. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I already have a name for this one, but Eric, I'm going to ask you both this, and you're going to have two different answers. So you worked 4 dogs, you worked the NSW contract, you came back, you worked as the head trainer for Canton for quite a while, and then retired. So what advice? So, if you're a new handler listening to this, say you're a year, 2 years in, even if you just started on your second dog, what advice? Because we haven't really talked about training in this episode a whole lot. We've talked about a lot of things that kind of go on in the background with handlers that, you know, don't have to do with dog selection, don't have to do with running a leash, don't have to do with like your job. But you know, and it's all intertwined. So what advice do you got for handlers that, I mean, I think I kind of know what you're going to say, but if they're listening to this and you're like a new handler and you're like, oh, this is taking so much fucking time and the reality of what a canine handler means and how much training, blah, 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 blah.
So I still think it's the best job on the department. I think if you were on a larger department with a full-time SWAT team, that's probably a pretty sweet job. Maybe U.S. Marshals Task Force, pretty sweet job. I do think the canine is probably the best job on there. My suggestion to you is do not try to make your dog a family dog. It is not your dog. Just remember, always remember, it is not your dog. It belongs to the police department. Don't do the dumb stuff that I did and other handlers have done. If your dog is, like we had a dog named Boss that worked for us, and Vanessa, I have a picture of Vanessa teaching Boss how to spit out a ball. And maybe it's a video, I don't remember. But Boss had, I don't know, 85 street bites in his career and could sleep with the kids and play with the Chihuahua, and just was one of those unicorns, right? So we made special concessions for that dog. So don't try it. But also remember, you are not by yourself. You're going to need help. Whether that's your wife helping feed because you got to go to court, or maybe something's happened, you work a midnight shift, you got to do something, you're going to need some help. Whether that's teaching your kid just how to clean the kennel. And it's not the best job, right? It kind of stinks. But yeah, as far as the family goes, I still just caution guys that are really allowing their dogs so much access to their family. And you know, you've trained dogs that they're a one person dog, you know, where the wife would have to throw food into the kennel if the handler was out of town. We had those. I mean, Canton had those, and Zeus was kind of that way. Zeus was nuts though. Like I said, he bit Cheyenne, and she fed him and was gone, walked away, and he went over and tagged her because he was a nutcase. So that's my big thing as far as the canine stuff goes. What you share with them, your children. My whole big thing was to always pretend like nothing work-wise was any big deal. I'm sure Vanessa heard me complaining nonstop about the admins at the department because that's just the way I was.
Oh yeah.
But last thing I was gonna mention, and so Ted talked about his nieces and everything. Is there any chance? Is there any chance ever that your nieces come to work for you?
My girlfriend's kid is going to work for me this summer, so nice. There's that. Yeah.
So Vanessa started with me when I retired in 2018. She was old enough to drive and drive up to the original kennel building, and we decided to give her a job. I never wanted my kids to have jobs in high school, like full-time jobs, like I did. I worked at McDonald's almost full-time, and my grades suffered, and I was tired all the time, and partially why I hated school so bad. I was just exhausted. Getting off McDonald's at 1 a.m. and getting up at 6 to go to high school is not smart. But so she started right from the rip, working at the daycare, helping me at the kennel with the police dogs, sometimes, often, and then working still to this day, works at the kennel and the daycare now. So Vanessa, for his girlfriend's son, what are you going to tell him if he was sitting here right now?
For working with police dogs or working with pet dogs?
Is he going to do both?
I mean, just in general, no, neither one of those kids are going to be working with police dogs right now. Just because.
But they can clean up police dog poop, though.
That they can do. So, but like Vanessa, like kind of the same question. Like if you, obviously this show is not geared towards handlers, family members. Like my mom doesn't even listen to this because she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, of course you don't. Because she's a nurse, she's an RN. She's like, I've sewn dog bites up. I'm like, oh, perfect. what advice do you have for like handlers with kids that were like, now being 23, thinking back to when you were like 8, 10 years old through that entire time frame? What advice do you have for handlers that have kids in that age range that maybe Eric not necessarily didn't know or doesn't realize?
I'm going to answer that in a second. I want to answer the advice to the kid that's going to be working for you.
Perfect.
Don't be afraid. Don't gag when you pick up the shit. It gets worse every single time you pick it up, but then eventually you get over it. But just remember that dogs are not always super cuddly, so don't grab them and love on them unless you know for sure they love to be grabbed on and loved on. Don't go up to a German Shepherd, a Malinois, a Rottweiler, a Cane Corso, like all those bigger breeds. Don't go up to them and just grab them unless you know that for sure, they like to be grabbed. And don't get weird with the dogs. Don't give them a weird vibe, because then they will not, like that. And just try your hardest to learn dog behavior is the biggest thing that I would say. Going on the handlers and the handlers family, I loved that I was included on it, but you just need to make sure that you're educating the people that you're having help you. My dad was very good at educating me, so I was young, so obviously I still made mistakes, but I wasn't like, fully clueless on what was going on. And I think that it's good to have a support system to help you whenever you may need it. Like my dad had COVID and was in the hospital for days, so I was the one running his kennel pretty much. I mean, my mom would go too, but I was the one taking care of all the different police dogs in the kennel. That was my main job, and I didn't have a problem with it because I knew them and I was comfortable doing so. So just make sure that, before you let your kids or your wife or your husband or whoever around these dogs, that they're fully comfortable and fully educated on what to do. And, they are dogs, so make sure you try to have a little bit of fun with them if you can. That's my biggest thing. I love having fun with dogs. I love it when they want to have fun with me, of course. But yeah.
Eric, you said something earlier that made me think about something I saw on a different podcast I was listening to. It was that Dominic Rizzo guy. So I guess he was who he is?
I don't know.
He was a cop in, I think, in New York or Chicago or something. Super outspoken about like hating TikTok and same right. So he made an interesting point the other day that you need to have friends outside of your job. And when you were talking about moving to the lake and being like, I'm fucking doing this, like I'm sure you sounded just like I make like when I make fun of you and I'd say this is what Eric fucking sounds like. That's exactly. I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm gonna sit in the car or whatever else. And he was like, and it's kind of twofold. We've had handlers on this show that got blue falconed by their own departments, sometimes for being on this show, or just in general for other things. But like Vanessa just said, like having a support system outside of the guys you work with, the people you work with definitely helps. And I think, Eric, you would echo that. Like your quality of life drastically improved when you started socializing outside of work.
Yeah, it was actually super important. I didn't even know how important it was because I thought that I just needed all my guys around me as my friends. You know what I mean? I remember when Lori and I got married. We got married at the house. Every single person I invited outside of family was a cop. That's all it was. All SWAT guys and a couple other buddies from there. And at this point, we probably should have known a couple other families there. We didn't invite them. And now those other people are our closest. And here's the thing. I don't speak to on a even a regular basis a single one of those people that were at my wedding from the police department. All my buddies, all my close friends, all my SWAT guys, all my canine guys. I don't talk to any of them, and none of them talk to me. Everybody's got their own thing going on. Once you're gone, and there are exceptions. There are people that have relationships with guys that they work with for life, no matter what happens when they retire. But usually, once you're gone, and your friends, if your friends are still there at the police department, you will find that you're out. They will not be. It's not that they don't like you or anything. It's just that you're out. So it's important to have that structure with people that support system with people that have nothing to do with your police job.
And I think that's really important too for guys coming out of the military. I think they get I see that a lot with guys that come out and they're like, I don't have PTSD. I have lack of traumatic stress in my life. And now like, now I don't know what to do. Like now I'm at Chuck E. Cheese in the fucking ball pit. And like, what am I supposed to be doing? How do I talk to these people? Like, how do I talk to this other dad about something other than shooting terrorists in the face? Or like, I mean, so it's one of those things that, and like I said at the beginning of the show, like when I'm not working, like the last thing I want to do is talk about fucking police dogs. So
somebody asked me one time, have I ever gone a day? Could I go a day without saying the word dog? And I don't think that's I don't think that's possible.
I don't think I could go without saying the word dog.
Because I have dogs and they aggravate me, and like my female hype, because she does dumb stuff, and I'm like, fucking dog. So, but yeah, I've gotten much better about coming home, and when I'm home. When I fucking put my phone down, and I'm not like, I set a time, because if not, there's been episodes of this show where people have asked me if I'm drunk, and I'm like, no, I've slept 3 hours in 3 days, and I'm working on multiple things going on at the same time. I'm like, I'm not drunk. I just haven't slept for 3 days. So yeah, it's not healthy. So yeah, if you're listening to this, like, remember, I tell canine handlers, and everybody listens to the show heard me all the time. You're a cop first and a canine handler second, but in reality, you're a dad and a husband first, then a cop, then a canine handler. So don't forget that, and be people's friends too. Like, I mean, I check in on my friends, like, and speaking of which, I need to send out some text when we get done here, but I check in on my friends relentlessly with people I know that are having tough times or whatever else. And not because I want fucking credit. I care about the dudes. So, and I just check in on, I'm like, you all right? Or like, I haven't heard from you.
I do credit, getting into the ski thing with Vanessa, doing that with her, our friends, Bruce and Missy and Doug and Jenny, who are our closest friends there, with saving my sanity when it came to work. Because what those guys don't do is talk about police work. How's things going? And can't never once did they ever do that. Lori, my wife, had to, she was the sounding board. She had to deal with all that, so she knew when I retired, it couldn't have been any happier for her. But yeah, talk about some other things. So Vanessa, if somebody wants to keep up with you and what's going on in your life and everything, how do they find you on Instagram?
I am Vanessa, VANESSA _STANBRO, Stanbro. Or you can get on my dad's Instagram, VanEss Canine, and I'm probably tagged somewhere in there. Which,
by the way, for those listening, I don't think everyone knows this. Sarah, if you said it before, but VanEss Canine is named after Vanessa.
Yeah. Yep.
The van part is, yes.
The ESS part is my initial. So my wife came up with the name. It was kind of a clever little combo there.
Yeah.
Also, for everyone listening, it's VanEss. A lot of people come up to me and call it Vanessa Canine, which I don't mind. Obviously, name a business after me. But a lot of people come up to me and call it Vanessa Canine, and I'm like, oh yeah, Vanessa Canine. Like, that sounds so much better than VanEss Canine. But yes, it was named after me. I do take credit.
That's cool. And Ted, what about you?
Torchlight K9, letter K number 9, Torchlight Pets, for all the pet stuff. We've gotten some gnarly dogs in recently, through Tulsa Animal Welfare that have had to have some pretty serious rehabilitation. So, the trainers have done an amazing job. Oil Capital Canine Fund for the 501 HRD Police Canine, which, we've got one coming up in Arizona, and then, we're going to Boston, for Mass State Police. And we've got some other, I think, private ones that they're going to be closed. We got coming up. So, and you've got, you just booked a e-collar seminar in Oregon.
Yeah, I got Oregon coming up in June. I have 3 different ones in May. I'm in Iowa, then Michigan, then Iowa again. I got there. I'm going to be heading back out to South San Francisco.
Oh, nice. Marty on those suits.
I think there's going to be another one in Ohio, up around the northern, like Euclid area, up around the lake. Back down to Houston, Texas in the fall. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. Pay attention. I'll put it on my Instagram, VanEss Canine. Also, still, my book is available on Amazon. Vanessa never knew that she's going to be. Her father was going to be a best-selling author.
No, the one day he just randomly, I was home for winter break, and he was like, "I'm writing a book," and I was like, "What?" And then I look over, and he has those little glasses, and he's writing his book. And I said he needed one of those big like author scarves. And sure as shit, he wrote the book, and I read the book, and it's really good, so I recommend it. And also, if you like hearing my dad talk, the book is written how he speaks. So if you like hearing him talk, it really resonates because you can hear him while you read. So
yes.
That's my recommendation.
So that's you just go to Amazon, look up my name. It's doing pretty good. I sold 12 copies so far. Last time I looked today, like it's about 10 copies every day. So it does pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd like it to really explode, but
I looked for a separate book, not even related, and it suggested it to me.
Sweet.
Yeah, which I don't know if it suggested it to me because I've already searched it, or there's some creepy internet. Whatever, it's fine. But I'm just telling you, and it suggested it to my girlfriend too. She's like, "Oh, it suggested Eric's book."
I have a special copy though because mine is signed.
Yeah,
and I will not be signed.
Yeah,
that's right.
Mine is signed. My dad gave me a signed book, and I cried. It's in my bookshelf. He gave me a signed book, and I looked at it. He said, "Here, take this one." Opened it. It was. I cried. Instant tears. I mean, instant tears.
So all right, man. Well, I liked it. This was good. You didn't cry. I thought maybe you would, but you didn't. We didn't get into anything
I
really
almost
emotional.
did. I almost did. Whenever we were talking about your motorcycle accident, it was there.
It was a pretty crappy part of the life at that time. So, anyways, thanks. We'll see you guys on the next one.